How do I get so many things done around the house? Many are 5 a.m. home projects. This week I worked on some DIY remodeling and redecorating projects inside of the house, then a little yard work and Willow playtime outside. On this morning at 5 a.m., I worked on the basement takeover makeover project. Not a she shed, but a she basement. This is what the walls looked like since we bought the house. I ended up going in and priming and painting everything, and even the stairs. The stair treads used to be red, and as you're going to see, I painted them green. I still need to paint the railing black, and I painted the treads green for a touch of whimsy and just to brighten up the space. I'm going to wrap these pipes with a white tape of sorts, and that rag stuffed in the ceiling is from a contractor. Uh-oh, they thought the pipes could come out one way, it couldn't, so I now have to seal that up. Now to tackle the holes in the floor. This was another morning project. I got up early and I decided to recut some wood for these areas. I was going to fill them, but I decided to put trim. I had to sand it down, and then I'm going to fill the holes with some wood putty. And my hopes are, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to do a faux painting technique to make it look like the oak. But today I'm just working on this trim. And here's the other section of the wood putty on the floor. Trust me, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to match this floor up well. But here I am sanding down the block after I rounded the edges. And also note, I have one hand that has nail polish and one that doesn't. What I do sometimes when I don't have time, I will do one hand, let it dry, and I'll have the other hand so that I can work on projects. And then I will paint the other hand, and then the other hand's dry. Does that make sense? That's just what I do. I still have a little more filling to do here in the seam, but I'm very pleased with how this came out. I just primed it right now to see how it looked. Now for another early morning DIY home remodeling project. Do you remember when the family room had no trim around the doorways? And I went in, measured, bought myself some flat stock, and I did put a first layer of trim around it. But I needed a second layer of trim just to get a little detail. It took me almost a year to finally get that up, but one morning, one early morning, I ended up going to Lowe's, purchasing some trim, and I took on the project and it didn't take me long at all. I'm wishing I did it quite a while ago. I actually ran out of paint, so I'm going to have to buy more of this. This is called Iron Gate by Benjamin Moore, and I'm going to tape off and trim this area as well. I have a sled here getting ready to put away in the attic, and I'm looking at some wallpaper here for the foyer, but I'm not going to allow myself to buy any until I finish the family room. But I'm pleased at how this trim came out. Another early morning DIY home decorating project was I started and finished painting and priming, or actually priming and painting this breakfast room. This again is simply white. I have not found the wallpaper I want to get yet, but I will. I'm honing in. And this little mini fridge, I've decided to move it, and let me show you what I'm going to do. I had somebody here the other day, and we are going to build a little built-in cabinet with some doors in this cubby. I quickly sketched out a plan for him to show him. So we're going to have the refrigerator, and then I'm going to have cubbies on the side to put in our, let's see, our liquor bottles or glassware, and then a shelf at the top. I have my phone and router in there. And then in the sitting room, he's actually going to also add some shelves for me. I was going to do this part of the project, but my walls are crooked and I just had to turn it over and give it to an expert. And now it's time to go outside. We actually had a couple 70-degree days. The sled that you saw in the hall was where the basket is. I put my basket up. It's all ready to put in some flowers. And I'm also now going to go in the yard with Willow and just see what's happening out there. I love to look for things that are growing or look for projects that I'm going to be doing. And I actually started doing some yard work, and it's only mid-March. Now, our home has a lot of granite stone around it, and I have actually found a lot have writing. Now, this is very crude, but some of them have writing as if it's from a cemetery stone or a tombstone. After doing some research, I found out that one of the old neighboring homes used to own a stone engraving company, and I'm just guessing that the neighbors said, "Hey, do you want to have some stone for your property that were broken?" I even have a broken tombstone, I believe, by one of our water spigots. And I'm so excited that I have snowdrops have finally pushed through the ground. Now, in the past, I've only had this one set, but last year, if you remember one of my videos, I cleaned this whole area. And I am glad to see that there are two other patches of snowdrops that have worked their way up. So these have been choked out by past years' overgrowth, and now I can see them. At this time, I'm making note of all the sticks I need to pick up in the yard, which I'm going to do very shortly. But first, I'm going to tackle this old seagrass. This is the time of year that I trim all of this down and go around the property. But I'm going to save this. I'm going to put it aside and not cover it with other debris because the birds and the animals actually like to take this and they make nests. And I love watching them pull from it and fly away with it. It's very cute to watch. In the background there is the compost pile. Another video last year you may have seen that I tore it apart and I started the wattle fence. Now I'm also assessing the rose bush. This is also the time to trim down the roses and just give it a fresh start. But after looking at the wattle fence and seeing the twigs on the ground and the sticks on the ground, I think I'm going to focus on picking some of those up. I saved the straight ones for the wattle fence, and the small ones are going to get burnt. But right now, let's go do that. This garden cart has had a lot of use, a lot of wear, and it's really holding up. I don't know if it's in business anymore. It's a Vermont company. In one of my past videos or blog posts, I had a link to it, and I'm going to see if I can find one that's either the same one or similar for any of you that are looking for something. It really is a workhorse, and it makes working around the yard a breeze. Well, not a breeze, but easier. Now this is one of those times when something inspires me. I'm actually picking up these sticks and one of them is fairly creepy looking. It actually is going to be perfect in an urn for Halloween and I'm going to put it aside and use it for that. And the critters start foraging and we start finding black walnuts everywhere and I love finding them. But what I want to show you is this. I have an apple tree. Well, not really, but let me show you what I mean. In the compost pile, I threw a bunch of shriveled up apples that I forgot that I had. And in my lilac tree, my husband pointed out from our kitchen window that a squirrel actually carried an apple up the tree and was eating it, and he left it there for later. I have never seen this done before, but here you go. I'm also taking note that the lilac tree already has some buds, and so I start walking around and I'm going to see if I can find anything else that's blooming. And yes, I found this one yellow flower. I think this is another type of forsythia. I looked it up last year. I'm going to have to look at my notebook that I actually doodled in and see if that's what it is. Some of you might recognize it right away, but if I look it up before I post this video, I'll let you know. Otherwise, it'll be in a future video, but I was pleased to find that, and this means spring's coming, even though this weekend it's supposed to drop down into the 20s again. And during our week, definitely have to take Willow out. She is full of energy, and you can see that with just in a few days, there was snow on the ground, and then it warmed up and it was all gone. But we like to go take a walk out in the back area of our house and play ball. While sleeping with her yellow duck, you would think Willow was the one that was working around the house all week. But not so. It was me. And notice who's napping and who's not. Thank you so much for visiting with me this week and watching some of my DIY projects that I do start really early at 5 a.m. Some of you may wonder why I'm not always on video. Well, a lot of times, truth be told, I'm in my pajamas or my hair's askew, so you don't need to see that. But I do want to show you projects that I'm doing because a saying that I used to use a long time ago in my business was, I'm helping you through it so you can do it if you want to do some of these home DIY projects. But for now, we'll see you next week. If you haven't already done so, I would love to welcome you to subscribe to my channel, and I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. It does let me know that you enjoy what I'm doing here. It shows YouTube that you enjoy watching, and then they will share it with other kindred spirits like you who like to work on DIY projects around their home, crafting, making items, and just making things more beautiful around their home and enjoying a life of fine living, no matter how simple or grand that may be. I hope to see you over at my Instagram channel, New England Fine Living, and also my website, which is also newenglandfineliving.com. Bye now.